And in fact, like I thought that would be the major challenge when we started up in 2018. But it now happens that policies, all sorted out, and the tech has been a major challenge compared to the policy part. So it's been like completely different, unexpected, but a wonderful journey overall.
Right. Right, but you say that, you yourself anticipated that the policy would take much longer, and yet you decided to launch or get in perspective your company in 2018. At that time, there were absolutely no private players in India. The sector was only opened up in 2020. So what is it that actually made you take that leap of faith? Did you think that the policy was in the offing, or were you just hoping that that would be the case?
Yeah. So in fact, like this is always a chicken and egg problem. So unless there is good number of players, there will not be a regulatory framework, and unless there is a regulatory framework, you'll not find many people wanting to get into it. So so what we thought is like we'll take that big initiative. In fact, we had the confidence that if we get to that threshold, limit where we develop really good tech, I think we thought that the government would definitely consider and open up the sector to private players. And then we took that leap of faith in 2018, and also like at that time we found the opportunity as being one of the earliest players to get into this business, so which also is like very important for a private company. So we clutched that opportunity early on, which really paid off right now. Which we're very quickly
Right.
were able to build some really extraordinary tech, and get to launch and also succeed in the first flight, which is also very rare for a rocket company.
Absolutely. So you had the first movers advantage, as they say. And if I'm not mistaken, we've been talking about technology. You said the tech part was also something that was difficult, not just the policy bit. But from what I know, and if I'm not mistaken, your technology and innovation is actually bringing down these launch costs by about 50% when you compare it to other global players. So can you elaborate on that for our viewers? How did you actually manage to achieve that? What went on behind that?
Yeah, it's not only it basically has two factors. One is the tech, of course, and the other is also like the advantages of operating a space company out of India. So where like we have a definitely advantage, a similar advantage to what we have in IT. So in fact, like we would say, a good portion of it comes from the tech, and also the remaining portion of it comes from being a very cost efficient nation, to build a space company from.
Absolutely, and ISRO is also known for being a cost-effective space agency as compared to NASA or any of its counterparts, and that really flows on, trickles on into private players, I guess, as well. And it's not just you. Now, just 2 years after the sector was actually opened up to private players, we have over 100 now. All of them are eyeing to work with the ISRO, are already doing so. Do you think that somewhere we are headed towards an end of ISRO's monopoly, so to say, because that's all that we know as far as the space sector goes?
And so in fact, like now the government has announced reforms in 2020, where like any private player in the country, can build any kind of space product and service, and the related regulatory permissions would be taken care by the government, and government is going to enable, authorize, and even promote the private players in this field. So once the reforms have come, there itself there is a change in the mindset that ISRO would be more like an enabler for the private agencies
Right.
and not a competitor. So basically, there is no rise of competition, or any other sort of arrangement with ISRO, or, because it's
Right.
more like an enabler for the entire private ecosystem is what the reforms want.
Right. So they're going to play the role of a mentor, so to say, and not really, there won't be really public-private competition that we see. One last question before I let you go, Pawan. What is it going to be next for you personally and for Skyroot as well? Is it time for celebrations, and are you going to take a break after today's historic achievement, or have you already begun working on your next project?
We are in fact reviewing the data from the flight, which is also very, very important. The data looks great, but of course, we have to conclude on the what's good for the flight and what next. So I think we'll take a quick probably a day or two break because it's a weekend. And in fact, our crew has been working a day and night at the launch pad and the integration facilities for the last 1 week. So we really need a break. But of course, because the success is really wonderful feeling to have. And then this break would really get us recharged soon in a couple of days.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you and your team for not only this successful launch, but also for making the entire country proud with your achievement. And thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with us, Pawan, here. With that, it's a wrap from me on this edition. But news and updates continue on CNN News 18. Don't go anywhere.
Good evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Ridhima Bhatnagar. Things are only getting murkier in the Shraddha murder case. Accused Aaftab continues to change his so-called confession. He's now saying that he'd cut the body of Shraddha into 16 pieces and not 35. He's also told the police that he threw some parts of Shraddha's body in the month of October. A picture of Shraddha from 2020 has also now surfaced in which injury marks can be seen clearly on her face. Meanwhile, in another twist to this already murky case, Shraddha's doctor has now claimed that she had consulted him on the phone around February 2021 regarding depression, violence and anger management of her live-in boyfriend Aaftab. This as investigative agencies continue to recreate the sequence of events. But with no real evidence at hand, will the police be able to nail Aaftab?
She came to us with a complaint of severe backache and neck pain. She had difficulty in walking and while walking and moving her neck. Within 2 to 3 days, she responded well to treatment, and then we discharged her.
So as we said, a lot of unanswered questions. With this changing confession of Aaftab, a lot of things really don't add up. Let me break down some details of what we had heard initially and what we are hearing now. Claim of chopping body to 35 pieces, that is now changed. Initially, it was Aaftab himself who had told police and the investigating officials that after he killed Shraddha, he had chopped her body in 35 different parts. Now he's saying that it was not 35, but in fact it was 16, and he says he then threw them in different parts as far as the Mehrauli forest is concerned. Claims skull intact, but it's actually yet to be recovered. That's why the biggest hurdle for investigating agencies is that what is the real evidence at hand for them to be able to nail Aaftab. Claims some parts dumped in October and not in May. Remember, look at the timeline of the case. We're now understanding the murder happened 6 months ago in May. So what happened over the last 6 months? It's very difficult for the police today to put these sequence of events together because there are no real eyewitnesses, there is no CCTV footage. So they have to get hard evidence if they need to have a case against Aaftab. No trace of the saw or the murder weapon used to chop Shraddha's body. More importantly, the motive of what made Aaftab take such an extreme step. There is no clarity on that as well. So as I said, it's going to become a new headache for the investigating officials and the police officials because Aaftab continues to change his stance. But today what we're going to put out on the broadcast for you is this picture that you see behind me. Now this picture of Shraddha has surfaced from 2020. There are clear injury marks on her face, there are cuts and there are bruises as well. What does this picture tell us? It in fact falls in place with the narrative that we've heard from Shraddha's father and Shraddha's close friends. That Shraddha used to be beaten up, she used to be tortured, there was physical abuse as far as this relationship is concerned. So there was a pattern of abuse. We're also now understanding that Shraddha in fact had got in touch with a doctor also at way back in 2020 and she wanted some antidepressants. But the larger question still is, with all these gaps in place, will the police still be able to find enough so that Aaftab's guilt can be proven? I want to bring in our first newsmaker of the evening. We have Dr. Pranav Kabra. He is Shraddha's doctor. He in fact is now joining us on the broadcast. Doctor, we appreciate you taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. What you will tell our viewers will become extremely important for us to understand what happened 2 years ago. So let's get the basics first. When did Shraddha get in touch with you and what did she tell you?
She gave me a call, like I want to consult regarding some stress, like I'm mentally stressed out with my issues and something. So I told definitely, and she wanted some antidepressive pill, which is very common nowadays, to prescribe on the phone through online consultation. I told her, no, that's not possible at all.
Okay, so you told her it's not possible to get these antidepressants because she was doing all of this over a phone call. Did she also speak about either injuries or other ailments that she was suffering? Also, did she tell you why she wanted these antidepressants?
Basically, as a practicing for so many years, you can understand many patients the name of Shraddha. Why I neglected her? Because the name of Aaftab came into the picture. Because she told my partner Aaftab also needs some medication. So then I came to know what I understand personally. I may be wrong. She needed medication for him, not for her, what I understand. So she wanted medication on her name so that she can take the medication and give it to him, what I understand. So after that, I told her sincerely that nothing can be done on phone. Online consultation is on during the COVID time, but antidepressant medications or antipsychotic medications is not been prescribed online at all. It has to be counseled, it has to be guarded, it has to be very well monitored.
True. Doctor, what I'm also essentially trying to understand is, in that phone call that she made to you, did she speak about any sort of abuse that she got at the hands of Aaftab, and did she speak about any other ailment of her own?
You understand, it's from the 2.5 minute call.
Sure.
That's it. After that, she never turned up to me. I requested her, you better turn up to the hospital. Because my hospital is very near. I think they stay at Evershan Nagar, my best. So I told them visit to my hospital, but they never turned up. That's a very sad state of affair. If they would have turned up, I think today's scenario must have been different. Because as a doctor, I would have definitely taken care of the patient and would have consulted them to the psychiatrist and would have been followed with the patient till date. And things would have been not this scenario what we are facing it today. As Shraddha is no more between us. And with the call of 2.5 minutes, it's very difficult to judge because nowadays every person have an issue with the family member, with the relationship, with an internet connection which goes down for a second, people get panic and people get hyper. So judging a person on a 2-minute call is very difficult. And today nowadays argument and some kind of issues are very common between the youngsters nowadays. They don't have that patience to understand the relationship. They don't have the sense of, what is a very gentle thing to understand how to carry the relationship. Today, the people are very much panicked, very much aggressive, very much frustrating in the lifestyle.
What I'm essentially trying to understand, when she calls you and you're saying it wasn't a very long call and the first thing she asks is for antidepressants, Did she mention what sort of antidepressant she was looking at? And more importantly, did she tell you the exact reason? Was it because of the pandemic? Because you're saying this was a call that happened in 2020.
This are very common, ma'am, nowadays. Antidepressant, sleeping pills are, you will find in every second person के जेब में आपको एक sleeping pill मिल जाएगी.
जी.
Because रात को they are not able to sleep properly. They are on phone, on mobile, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on whatnot. And they want to have a sleep, and morning they have want to get up early, want to achieve something in the life. They don't understand that achieving in life is not easy task, but they want to achieve it very, very smoothly as they get their things in their hand. They don't have to work hard. So here with Shraddha and Aftab, definitely things would have been harder and but tough, and they were still living together.
Doctor, what I'm essentially also trying to understand is, was this the first time that Shraddha had gotten in touch with you, or had she gotten in touch with you before as well? And if she had gotten in touch with you before, what are the kind of ailments that she had spoken to you about?
That was only one call with me. Before that, I never knew her. And after that also, there was no touch with me. There was only one call. That's it. And I instructed her, again I'm telling you, I instructed her to visit to the hospital and get the medication or prescription or counseling or consultation for the betterment, but she didn't turn up. That's I think if she would have turned up, things would have definitely different today, because as a doctor, as a doctor fraternity, we do take care of our patients very well. We understand the patient criteria, patient need when we treat every single patient. What we treat in India, every doctor is concerned about the patient, and we really take care. We do follow with the patients, and we see that they are on medications. This happens only in India. Other world, other countries, they don't follow up this way.
So when she called you asking for these antidepressants, is that all that she was looking for? Was there a sense of urgency in her tone? What do you remember from that call?
See, that's what she wanted, an antidepressant medication. A sleeping pill is also act as an antidepressant medication. A sleeping pill also acts as an antidepressant medication. There are many other drugs which is prescribed especially by a psychiatrist after being counseling for a long time, understanding the nature, behavior of a particular person individually. So it's a very tough job for a psychiatrist to prescribe medication such kind of patients. So a sleeping pill also acts as an antidepressant and a muscle relaxant, for example, also acts as an antidepressant medication, where patient feels very relaxed and very soothing through his mindset. So it acts as an antidepressant medication.
Lastly, doctor, I also want to understand, when you told her that these antidepressants can't be given over a phone call, she has to visit you, you have to assist the patient. Did you ever hear back from her?
Basically, why I came into picture, because I never see news. Sorry to say that I am never behind the news part. But when I heard about Shraddha and when I heard about Aftab, the name, then it recollected me that I have spoken to her on a phone call, because she had told me I will come with Aftab. वो नाम मुझे याद था, because it was like Shraddha and Aftab, like अलग ही name थे. तो उस तरह से Shraddha patient बहुत है. And people are with same Shraddha. Many girls are there in this world, but Shraddha I've come with Aftab, so that name struck me, and so I came into the picture that yes, I had spoken to her once.
Doctor, we really appreciate you taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. It really helps us understand what happened in the last couple of years with both Shraddha as well as Aftab. We also now want to bring in our other newsmaker for this evening. We have Godwin joining us, and he is Shraddha's friend. Godwin, we appreciate you taking out the time and joining us here on CNN News 18. Could you first begin by telling us and our viewers, how did you know Shraddha? For how long had you known her?
I have known her for almost, say, about less than a year, because the instance started way back in 2020. November, when one fine day I had got a call, and my brother had got a call that one of our office colleague is looking for immediate help, because she used to work for a call center back then, and it seems Aftab had physically assaulted her and had tried to strangle her, choke her, and she somehow escaped, and she immediately wanted help, and she had nowhere to go, so she had immediately called her office for some help. And because it was far off for people to help her immediate basis, so they had tried to get in touch with my brother, because we stay in the same vicinity, and at that same point in time even I was available at home. So when this horrific incident happened, my brother narrated this to me, and immediately we got in touch with Shraddha and called her home. She immediately came to my house. The first appearance of her, me seeing her face to face, was very bad, because she being a very fair girl, her complex was very fair. So I could literally see bruises on her face. Okay, your blood clotting was there just on her face. And during the conversation, I even got to know that she also has bruises on her lower waist. All right. And after pacifying her, I got to know that she was being physically assaulted.
Okay.
And this was not the first time that this had taken place. This is the time when she took that courage, and her saturation level had gone to that point that she had to escape somehow. If she wouldn't have escaped, I think the horrific incident that happened in May, which we are talking about right now,
Sure.
this would have happened way back in 2020 itself. So after listening to this, I immediately took her to the nearest police station, which was Tulin's police station, Nalasupara East. We registered the NC. After registering the NC on 23rd November 2020, way back during the duration, say between 3 o'clock till 6 o'clock, we were in the police station only. We came back home, and she was in fear of going back home.
Sure.
So during that course of time, I happened to pacify her. I started talking to her to get to know her, because I was just a stranger to her. I didn't knew her personally. She was just trying to seek help, and whatever information I could get from her was the bits and pieces I could have collected and tried to help her.
Godwin, so many crucial facts that you're telling us. You're saying that she had suffered physical torture, physical abuse way back in 2020. And you're saying that if she hadn't escaped that particular day when she met you, probably she would have had the same fate of the news that we are currently seeing. But you're also making another very crucial point, that when she reached out to you and other friends, there was also a police complaint that was registered. So wasn't there any action taken at that point of time?
See, I'll tell you what happened that day. Immediately we went to the police station, we registered the NC, because even police would want to verify the actual synopsis of what happened, because it was just one-sided of Shraddha narrating her story, right? And because she was the main victim, I was asked to stay aside, because I was not part of her relative.
Sure.
So I was told to stay outside when the NC took place. After getting the NC, we had immediately come home. And that same day I was just talking to her, got to know what she does, how she does it, what is Aaftab into, and I also got to know he was a drug addict. He used to sell drugs for his living. He used to make a lot of money with that. And eventually next day she had come home again. I had called her, and we wanted to seek women help, because obviously she being a woman, she will not be able to disclose everything.
Sure, understandable.
See, wounds which are external can be shown. Wounds which are internal cannot be told to a stranger, especially to a person who is a male of your same age, right? So we happened to encounter that, and we tried to get women help immediately. We took her to one of the centers, and we narrated the entire story. And the women center, in fact, initiated the inquiry immediately and told her, if you want, we will take legal action against Aaftab, and we will have him behind bars, because if you think you are weak enough, we will back you up. If you are saying what happened with you is correct, is the truth.
Sure.
So she said, yes, whatever I am saying is truth, and we will discuss this in detail in the evening. She had to go out again. And in the evening when she came back, during that course, afternoon and evening, I do not know what happened. In the evening her statement changed, and she told us that she wants to take the case back, and she doesn't want to take any legal action against Aaftab. I think that time she might have got in touch with Aaftab, and Aaftab might have emotionally blackmailed her, because the first day when she had come to my house, Aaftab was calling her back to back, and when we were not taking his call, during that course he was sending her WhatsApp messages and WhatsApp call recording, as in the voice recording, and he was only saying, if you don't come, I'll suicide. And this is one of the bullshit thing that he was doing, and this female was getting carried away. Even though in the situation when she was like in fear, in that pain, she even made me, as a stranger, she made me order food for Aaftab, get it delivered to his house. I personally went to deliver the food. And in that rage of anger, Aaftab just threw the food and told me, who are you to deliver the food? Whoever is concerned for me, tell her to come home.
There's so many factors that you're telling us, Godwin. So you're saying that earlier she was ready to file a complaint, but something changed in those couple of hours. Do you feel that possibly Aaftab pressurized her and that's why she wanted to take the complaint back? More importantly, also you said something very crucial. You said as far as the mannerism of Aaftab was concerned, he was not just consuming drugs, but selling drugs as well. Is that correct?
There was one statement which I particularly remember, and it is verbatim to what she told me. She clearly said she has one of the videos in her phone that is an escape route if anything goes wrong. And Shraddha knew long back that something wrong is going to happen to her, and that is why she had most of the evidences of his drug peddling, which he used to sell the drugs. And I do not know the terminology, but she used to tell me he used to make brownies and sell them. And late night, say at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, people used to come home to collect drugs.
What I'm essentially trying to understand is, from this episode which happened in 2020, when was the last time you spoke to Shraddha? And at that time also, did she tell you about a similar physical abuse?
Post November, we again got in touch multiple times. But then she was happy-go-lucky, she never complained. But on and off, there were a couple of updates that she used to give me. She moved on to another company where she was pretty much doing well. She got promoted. She was even planning for a personal trip, solo trip, which she used to like to do. She wanted to plan to go to Nepal. So I told her, if you want the company, I might even want to join you. Okay. But that was not concrete. She was just as in roughly jotting it down. And over and above to that, she also told me that Aaftab was trying to tell her that they both will be shifting to Dubai. And Aaftab is the one who planned the Dubai trip. So I asked her, will it be on work basis? Are you trying to settle down? And she told me, yes, Aaftab wants to settle down over there and he doesn't have a passport. He'll be applying for one soon. And I told her, I had given her a hint that today, being in the city, you are in Mumbai, your family is just around the corner. Today you are not receiving help. Tomorrow you go to another city, another state, another country. Do you think you will be able to approach or escape this situation again? And she said now things are better and he is mentally doing well because he was earning at that point in time. Alright. And after that, I think, say, the last conversation I had in 2021 only, the first quarter, I guess.
2021.
That was the last interaction of me with her.
2021 is what you're saying. You had your last conversation with her. Little did any of us think that that could possibly, this is this kind of story that we would be discussing today. But Godwin, we really appreciate you taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. I also now want to bring in other guests to really understand what is the kind of pattern that is emerging. Can Aaftab really be trusted? And what is the kind of evidence that the police now needs to get their hands on to nail Aaftab? We have the former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Arvind Kumar Jain. We also have a forensic expert, Dr. Dinesh Rao. Gentlemen, good to have both of you on the broadcast with us. Arvind Jain, I want to begin the conversation with you. How do you read the developments over the last couple of days? The only thing that the police is currently working with is a confession, which is not going to hold in the court of law. But even that so-called confession by Aaftab is changing with each passing day. So who is to believe that once he said it was 35 parts, now 16, the location he identified was the Mehrauli forest. But can Aaftab really be trusted now?
No, Aaftab can never be trusted. He is a very dicey character. He is a psychic case and he should never be trusted by police. And I think a narco test is the best thing to bring the truth out of him. And a narco test might not be legally tenable in a court of law, but so many things can come out during this test. And it might lead to recovery of the head of Shraddha, mobile phone, murder weapon, and so many other things. So, but I tell you that police is not banking on confessions of Aaftab. They are independently collecting evidence. Hats off to CNN 18 and other channels who are also examining the witnesses, requesting them to come forward. These are very crucial evidences which I was listening to just now of Mr. Godwin and Doctor. And if they depose before the court of law, they are independent witnesses. They have to be trusted, and they are independent witnesses. The police report which was filed in her case, that will be very crucial evidence. And if police can lay their hands on for more evidence of his drug addiction, selling, peddling drugs, and so many evidences will come forward. The entire country is shocked, and whosoever is aware of any development, I think they will come forward. I request them; they should depose before the police. They should depose before the court, and he will be hanged. He will be hanged by court of law.
Dr. Dinesh Roy, I want to bring you in. The one worry that seems to be becoming a big headache for investigating agencies also is that what is this real evidence that can prove the case against Aaftab? We still have no clarity as far as motive is concerned. The murder weapon still hasn't been found. The few bones that have been picked up, it's going to be a while before, you can have them checked with the DNA that has been taken with Shraddha's father. Not too many bloodstains also have been found at the residence. What do you make of the evidence at hand, whatever little is? And don't you think that time is now running out?
See, one thing apart from the evidences, that is the bones which has been recovered or the blood samples recovered from the primary crime scene and the secondary crime scene. See, other one, I think the doctor has made a statement that there were some injuries, that is before her death. That also will be a very good evidence, because only one thing which I can't understand is actually it's the duty of the doctor to report to the police whenever there is an injury on like this. But definitely there were none, as per my examination goes, with the photographs are concerned on the injuries, they are non-accidental. That means that is most likely an assault and it was blunt force, and the injury on the angle of, that is the root of the neck, root of the nose, that definitely there is a scar which amounts to a grievous injury because it amounts to disfiguration of the face, and it was his duty to report to the police. That is number one. And the second thing is, because that will help in this case, because earlier she was assaulted and there were grievous injury on her. And the second part is, these bones, see, bones, but not only the DNA, see the way the bones have been cut, means is it by a saw or a knife or a scalpel, because there are different methods, or is it by a electric saw? So it depends on what type of weapon can be easily concluded on the cut ends of the bones. That is most important thing. And the second thing is, the cut ends of the bone also speak about that if Shraddha was alive before that means before this cutting took place. That means not after death or before death. That also can be concluded by the cut ends of the bone, which gives a very good clue to us. So that is one important conclusions we can draw out of it. And above all these things, even on the bones, if whichever the skull, for example, if the skull has been retrieved, if there are some injuries on the skull, antemortem injuries, which are likely to be fatal.
Okay.
And that clearly indicates it to be inconsistent with the statement that he throttled. See, possibility of blunt force or sharp force injuries on the skull, if it exists, and if they are antemortem in nature, that means he killed her and then he tried to mutilate the body.
Sure.
So that will become, yes, this is what all things can be inferred just by the examination of the bones, and definitely the soft tissues can never be found because it will be decomposed, or the area from where it is true, the animals might have eaten away. And all these conclusions, and above all those things,
two crucial points that you're making, and I agree with you, because it's been 6 months on since the murder happened and the crime scene was open to all till a few days ago. But Arvind Kumar Jain, I want to bring you back in the conversation. The other question that is now being raised by many is that how do you in fact prove that Shraddha used to be in that same residence where Aaftab in fact murdered her? Because I spoke to a lot of neighbors, nobody remembers seeing Shraddha because it was just 2 or 3 days that they had actually moved to that residence, and after that she was murdered. Not too many bloodstains that have been found at the residence. We don't know how long it will take for the bones to match up as well. So isn't that going to be the first big hurdle for the agencies to prove that Shraddha in fact used to live at that residence?
No, it can be proved. If DNA sampling is done of the blood stains in the fridge, body parts were kept there, they will definitely match with her father. and that will be a conclusive proof. And if a forensic examination is done carefully of the flat, entire flat, he might have washed it. He might have used formaldehyde to erase the stains, but still, a lot of evidence can be retrieved from that house. Naturally, because he had planned this murder a long time back, and that's why after only 3 days he got rid of her and started throwing the pieces. In my opinion, he took up residence in Chhatarpur because it is close to Mehrauli jungle, and he had this planning that he will throw away the pieces in Mehrauli jungle one by one. So evidences will naturally come. Once he has taken the house on rent, even she must have signed it. And the owner of the house will depose before the police that yes, both of them used to stay there, and they had come, because every person makes an inquiry and they have to report this to police also if they get new tenants. So it will be proved. I don't think it is going to be an issue at all.
Dr. Dinesh Roy, I also want to understand the other aspect, which is as far as the narco test is concerned. Now, a jury is divided whether it's a very quote-unquote legal or an authentic form of trying to get evidence. In your opinion, will a narco test really help this investigation?
No, definitely. The cases like these are the ones which are indicated for narco analysis. The reason being is, see, narco analysis, though it may not be a conclusive evidence or a procedure, but definitely it may corroborate. For example, now the skull is not recovered, weapons are not recovered, and if these statement made under narco analysis, and if the skull is recovered, weapon is recovered, that will be a classic authentication of the narco analysis procedure itself and the corroboration. So this is how the investigation helps. It's not necessarily the court has to consider or authenticate the procedure, but the outcome of the procedure, there is a recovery, and that recovery is a valid evidence which is corroborating and is consistent with the statement or this thing, or other parties in the narco analysis statement. The statement made when he was with the police and the statement made under narcosis, they both also will be compared. And see, and also the investigator officer can draw a lot of conclusions on those statements. So these are the greatest advantage in a criminal like this, who changes his statements, who is cannot be believed, and it will be very much obvious that he is concealing so many things. And even the earlier interviews I have discussions, I had indicated that the behavior of this individual is not only a psychopath, but is also is into substance abuse. And now Shraddha's friend has clearly stated indeed he was a drug peddler. Because this we have seen in a lot of murders where we have seen the criminals' behavior, which is clearly matching with substance abuse. So now he says, I thought he was consuming, but his friend says that
he was peddling as well. So Arvind Jain, that entire debate around was this in a moment of fit of rage, that doesn't hold true anymore. Look at the testimonies that are now coming to light from friends, that picture that is emerged of Shraddha 2020, conversations that she had with her then manager, asked for help. So there was a pattern of constant physical abuse which led to eventual death.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes, you are absolutely correct. I have told so many times that it's a premeditated murder. He had planned it long time back, and he did it. He cut her into pieces in that flat only, and evidences will come forward. And as far as I think, I'm very hopeful that many people will come forward and give evidence in this case. Even if they are put to some inconvenience, they have to go to court, but they must depose. They must depose in the interest of justice against such a butcher. And he should be taught a lesson by the society.
True. And that really is the hope, that there will be some closure, there will be some justice, not just for Shraddha, but for her family as well. Leaving that conversation there, I appreciate both our guests taking our time and joining us this evening. We're now shifting our focus to the other big story. Is it the end of Twitter? Well, the reason that we're asking this is because of what is happening at Twitter as we speak. If you look at some of the top trends on Twitter all day long, it has been hashtag #RipTwitter and hashtag #IsItAllOver, also hashtag end of Twitter. Now, there seems to be a mass exodus at Twitter. This after Twitter's new boss Elon Musk asked employees to commit to working quote-unquote hardcore or leave. Elon Musk demanded an 80-hour work week, no remote work, and literally minutes to decide whether they wanted to stay on or not. Looks like most employees do not want to work hardcore and are now resigning, taking a 3-month severance package. In the fear of a sabotage now, Twitter then alerted employees that all office buildings were being closed and even badge access was being suspended. The email that was sent to employees said this, and I'm quoting, "Offices will now reopen on the 21st of November. In the meantime, please continue to comply with company policy by refraining from discussing confidential company information on social media, with the press or elsewhere." But now fearing that at this rate there'll be literally no one left to work at Twitter, Elon Musk has also softened his policy from work at home policy. There is now a real sense that Elon and company are trying very hard in these last hours to try and convince people to stay. The question is, will people actually agree? But while all this is happening, Elon Musk, true to his nature, is unmoved. So the larger question is, can Elon Musk actually make a turnaround? We'll have to stay tuned. So before I bring in our guests, let's quickly give you an overview of what really happened at Twitter today. Resignations rolled in post Elon Musk's mail. The mail, as I said, had given very clear ultimatum to the employees. It almost looked like a mass exodus. Musk had set the deadline for employees on mail. Many of them decided that they had had enough and they will go forward with the severance package. Now, the staff was asked to commit to a quote-unquote hardcore work, or they could actually quit the company. As I said, many decided to take the severance package and leave. What happened post that? Because then Twitter officials who were still left, they started to worry about a sabotage. So the offices were shut, the badges were also suspended. All of this happened in a matter of hours. But then again, realizing that at this rate, will there anyone actually be left to work at Twitter? Elon Musk then softened the tone as far as the work from home policy and others were concerned. There was also reports that the senior leadership is in a huddle and they were then being asked to retain talent. With how things are now moving at Twitter, the question is it the end of Twitter? Let me now bring in our guests, two very special guests joining me this evening. We have the former CEO of Twitter India, Manish Maheshwari, and we also have the former head of news at Twitter India, Rahil Khurshid. Good to have both of you on the broadcast with us. Manish, I'd like to begin with you. One, how do you assess what really has happened all through the day? More importantly, you also spoke about understanding a distinction about the people who are using Twitter. You said that there are content creators and then there is the other set. Why do you feel it's important to understand that distinction?
Yeah, so let's talk about the day-to-day, right? So it was pretty chaotic, and what has happened today is unprecedented. I think the way the email went out, the way the ultimatum was given, and also quite disrespectful of this email to go out to people, because It's not about just working long hours or working hardcore in his own language, but also about respecting people's choice in terms of where they are their best in terms of their creativity and their output. So I think that all goes down the drain. And I think it also reverses the culture that Twitter had, which was a lot of independence was given to people to work from home. In fact, when COVID started, Twitter was the first company to allow people to work from wherever and also forever. And I think all that now is reversed. And it's no surprising that many people have chosen to resign. And because anyone who is skillful and has any kind of competence would rather work at a different company at their own terms than to put up with this. To your second question about distinction between content creators and consumers. So clearly, I think this whole blue tick and verification has caused a lot of chaos and also a lot of confusion. But one thing you have to remember is that Twitter is a two-sided network. On one side, you have content creators who create content. These are eminent personalities who choose to share updates and news about them, who choose their opinions. And on the other side, you have content consumers who then follow these people, show their love and appreciation, and consume this kind of content. And I think the platform brings the two sides together and gets the flywheel going. And I think the network becomes better and better, as more creators attract more consumers, and more consumers in turn attract more creators, right? So if you equalize or level set the whole playing field, it's almost like saying, you remove the distinction between buyers and sellers on Amazon. So would Amazon remain Amazon if buyers and sellers are all the same, right? So you have to have some distinction. And if you don't have the distinction, someone who is an eminent personality, someone who has amazing content to share, why would they share on this platform as compared to other platforms? So the incentive for them to be a content creator comes down. At the same time, for a user, one, they have a problem figuring out who is the real person who to follow. And secondly, how do they show their sort of followership and love? And I think the other metrics also.
The verification is a whole different problem to discuss. But Rahil, I want to bring you in the conversation. From what you read on Twitter today and various other reports of what is expected of an employee at Twitter under Elon Musk, how different is it from your time at Twitter?
Very, very different. As Manish pointed out, there was full freedom to do what you wanted to do, where you wanted to do it, right? Like as long as you were meeting your goals, you were meeting your targets, you could be based anywhere. In fact, my 4.5 years at Twitter, I was mostly working out of home. I would go into the office every now and then for whenever we had meetings and so on. But because most of my team was in Bombay and I was in Delhi, I wasn't really required to be in office, so to speak. And most of my work anyway involved meeting partners in news, politics, and government verticals. So I'd be out all day. Elsewhere too, for example, as long as I said, as long as you did what you needed to do, you could do that out of anywhere except for the core engineering functions. What we're seeing fundamentally isn't just a shift in culture. It's a shift in the kind of company Twitter is, right? Yeah. Like what Elon is fundamentally signaling is a change in that. It's gone from being a people's company to being purely what he imagines as an infrastructure and software company, which I'm not sure is an accurate classification as far as Twitter is concerned, given what the USP of the platform is. It's not the tech, so to speak. It's the content on the platform. But it's his company, and if he feels like this business transformation, to implement this business transformation, this is the way to go, he'll do this and find out whether it's worked or not.
And more than the content, it was a community, right? For people who've been on Twitter for the longest time, it was about building a community of like-minded people, and then you, of course, move into different forays, you start following people. So many now feel that true essence of the platform possibly is being compromised. But Manish, my larger issue is, and I find it very difficult to understand, when we saw those mass layoffs, certain reports were suggesting that the workforce had already been reduced anywhere between 70 to 75%. Then you see this mass exodus. So one, what really is left? And can you really run a company with whatever little talent or number of people that are left?
Yeah, I'm also extremely surprised, just as you are. I think if I just do the math, 50% were laid off 2 weeks ago. And of the 50% that remained, 75% have put in their resignation. So what remains of the original is 12.5%, or roughly 87.5% have resigned or have left. So the question is, can the company run with 2.5% of its earlier workforce? My answer to that is it's going to be extremely difficult. And I think many things will start deteriorating in the coming few weeks and months. Already we saw chaos in terms of advertisers leaving the platform, mass impersonation, use of the N-word has gone up in the US, and many other problems, right? So, I mean, there were large teams managing all these affairs. You just can't say that, okay, I'll just run a small engineering team and that will manage the whole app for the entire world. this is a fairly large and complex operations spanning over several dozen countries, right? So my view is it's going to be extremely difficult from here on to get back into shape.
Right, now I want to talk to you about the other big issue, which of course everybody wants to try and wrap their head around of what really is happening, which is this entire verification process. So Elon Musk comes, he fires the top leadership, and then he says these layoffs are important because Twitter needs to be profitable and all that money cannot come from advertisements. Fair enough. Most of the advertisers, as Manish is rightly pointing out, now don't want to be seen anywhere close to Elon Musk. But as far as the authenticity of the brand is concerned, that verification tag was there for a reason. And we've seen what's happened in the last couple of days and weeks. Parody accounts have gone up. You really don't know who the real person is anymore. You know, reporters are also falling for a lot of parody accounts. How do you ensure that the content that is being put out can in any way be moderated?
Well, that's a challenge, right? Like given the Twitter is also let go of contractors on its moderation team. So 80% of the contractors are gone. Verification at Twitter was never perfect. It was always imperfect, right? But going after that as sort of like your first order of business and completely bungling it up says that this was approached very, very thoughtlessly. Given that truly is Twitter's USP. People who say who they are, putting out news, information, journalists, politicians, actors, film stars, cricketers, you know, the whole league, so to speak, and giving other people the ability to just pay $8 and impersonate anyone who they want to impersonate. What we're fundamentally going to see, he's now been forced to pause this system, right?
Yeah.
Like because it was rolled out in such a rush and quite obviously created a lot of chaos. Basically also turning off advertisers off the platform. There is an argument to be made for a subscription service, right? Like that Twitter can build if it has an incredible amount of value for its power users, for sure. But that service needs to be built out very, very carefully. That it needs to be a tiered system of value that I can get as a power user that I'm not getting right now. And it can't be based on destroying the only thing that offsets Twitter from other platforms,
True.
which is its user base, the authenticity of its user base. And Manish pointed out earlier that there's a creator set and then there's a follower set, right? Like Twitter's always been a platform where more people listen to what is happening on the platform
True.
rather than create content. Compromising the ability of people to create that content and signal in an authentic way that this has been created by the people
Sure.
that they say they are, is really just going after the heart of Twitter. And I really do hope that these thoughts, these aspects are ironed out as he rolls out the new Twitter Blue subscription service.
And you know, my
Otherwise,
larger
this
concern,
is
and I agree with the
really
point that you're making, Rahil, that what happens to the heart of Twitter or the reason why people wanted to be on this platform. Manish, I'll give you the final word. Do you see this as the beginning of the end for Twitter? Because today there are enough alternatives and more as far as users are concerned. So do you now see this as the beginning of the end for Twitter?
Yeah, see, until yesterday, I was hopeful that, there'll be a bit of a struggle, and I think Elon will figure this out and he will do it at a significant cost to his personal wealth. But after today's event, when I think 75% people have chosen to resign, and I think the way how disrespectfully he has been treating all the employees, I feel that it would be very difficult for things to get back into shape from here. Already people are quite upset, not just the employees, but also the users and power users, celebrities. Advertisers have put the entire thing on pause. So if the whole logic of doing all this was to save cost and be profitable, your entire top line goes away. 90% of revenues of Twitter comes from advertisers, and advertisers are pausing money. They're spending their money on Twitter. So where does this go, right? I mean, it seems like a brand name and a shell now.
Yeah. Where does this go is actually the question on everybody's mind. Unfortunately, I've completely run out of time. Manish and Rahil, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here. We'll keep tracking all these developments. For now, we're slipping into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with a wrap of all the other news that we tracked right through the day.
is our criminal justice system so weak? Why these murderers and rapists go scot-free? If you go by NCRB figures, conviction in rape cases is barely 30%, murder is barely 42%. And now if I come to this case, as of today, after 5 days, they've gone for a second remand. They don't have the body of the vital parts of the victim.
Yeah.
They don't have the mobile of Shraddha. They have not been able to recover the blood-stained clothes of Shraddha. And here you have the accused who is trying to take the police of Mumbai and Delhi for a ride. How do we know there were 35 pieces? Because he is telling. How do we know that the clothes were thrown in a garbage van? He is telling.
Yeah.
When Mumbai police called him for investigation, they did not tell Delhi police, they did not alert them that keep an eye on him. The moment the Mumbai police called him for investigation, he destroyed the mobile, sold it off on OLX, as sources say. So definitely, as you said, Arushi murder case, that the last scene theory was that there were 4 people in the house and morning there were 2 alive and 2 were not alive. And even in that, they could not prove the case and CBI had to go for a closure. Definitely here also, you don't have any eyewitnesses. For 2 months, this girl was dead and not one neighbor knew that she was not alive.
Exactly.
And nobody came to complain. Ultimately, some friend who was watching. So, the issue here is that there are no eyewitnesses, there is no direct evidence and the police has been unable to get the motive or the
So let me ask
the cleaver or the knife, as we say, that is yet to be recovered.
Today the court, in addition to giving remand, also gave the go-ahead for narco analysis to be done on Aaftab. Of course, his consent was sought for it. Narco analysis, Nirmal Kaur, as you very well know, is not admissible as evidence in a court of law. What is the police hoping to garner or decipher through this narco analysis? How is it helpful in a case such as this?
See, the police investigation is not very, now with this national investigation going on into it, people tend to have a view that investigations should be, it shouldn't be that difficult. It's highly painstaking work. It is like looking for a needle in a huge stack of hay. So investigation is not that easy. They have to try all the options. So perhaps that is why they've asked for narco tests, that maybe the truth serum or the narco test will be able to give them something, or at least, give some heebie-jeebies to the accused so that he comes out with some new or, he states some new things out of which maybe 10% truth comes out. So maybe that is what their hope is out of this test. But police has to try every avenue. They cannot let anything go. They don't know where
whatever
he
says,
where they'll get a piece of
just
evidence.
give me 10 seconds. Whatever he says, and so far Abba Singh is 100% right. Everything that we have known and put out in the public domain is because he has said it. He can very well turn around in court and say, I said none of this. Or I said all of this in duress, under duress.
Even if he... No, his confession is not admissible in a court of law at all.
Yeah.
So that has no value unless it leads to some findings or it leads to some evidence, solid evidence that can be tied up to link the murder with him. Otherwise, his saying anything has no value in a court of law. It's not even admissible under the Indian Evidence
Let
Act.
me ask Lalita Kumaramangalam. This is, I would say, an eye-opener for young women as well as for their families, particularly young women who, want to experience love, want to see people of their choice, and sometimes families oppose that. But look at the extent to which this case went. I mean, the family had cut off any kind of contact with Shraddha. Shraddha was not talking to them. The fact that she went missing, the family did not even know till 6 months later when the father went and filed a missing persons complaint. I mean, this to me is again one of the sides of the story which we all as parents need to be very, very alert about and aware of.
I agree, Saka. The fact is, I've been saying this very loudly for the last few days, that while my sympathies and empathy is with the family, I keep telling people that please don't cut off your daughters because they have done something that you don't like. Make sure that they have somebody, some sort of support system they can fall back upon. More than 90% of the time, domestic violence is never reported.
Yeah.
There is enough now to show that her friends have said very clearly that he used to beat her up, he used to stub his cigarette on her back, and this girl kept quiet. Unfortunately, girls are also taught to adjust, compromise. These words are terrible words, but we are always taught this in India. We are not taught to make a noise. We are not taught to talk to others. We are not taught to reach out and ask for help. And families too often shut off their children from the support that they may need in times like this. You know, this poor child has paid the worst possible price for her reluctance and her incapacity perhaps as a human being because of whatever she's been through in many years from family, from this boy, God knows where else and whom else. She couldn't have even reached out to her friends. She never told them that she was being beaten up. Now this guy, this is the fear that even I have in this case, that this chap is not some ordinary killer. He's not just a pathological liar or anything like that. I think he's doing everything in a very calculated manner. And I really don't know if one person could have done what he managed to do to that child's body. So there are so many things that need to be looked at by the police. But I do agree with Nirmalji when she says that the forensics in this country really need to be shored up. I have had, you know, when we used to train police women in the Northeast, etc., they have told us that, ma'am, in rape cases, by
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for staying with us. Let's also now get your wrap of all the other stories that we tracked right through the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a dig at Pakistan and China for skipping the International Ministerial Conference No Money for Terror on counter-terrorism financing in the national capital. The Prime Minister said certain countries support terrorism as part of their foreign policy, while some others support it indirectly by blocking action against terrorists.
There must be a cost imposed upon countries that support terrorism. Organizations and individuals that try to create sympathy for terrorists must also be isolated. The world needs to unite against all kinds of overt and covert backing of terror.
Vikram S, India's first privately developed rocket to be launched by the Indian Space Research Organisation from the spaceport in Sriharikota, about 115 kilometers from Chennai. Vikram S is one of the world's first few all-composite rockets that has 3D printed solid thrusters for spin stability of the launch vehicle.
It is indeed a new beginning, a new dawn, and shall I say very appropriately as our team members have put it, a new prarambh in the journey of India's space program. And very many thanks to Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, who has made this effort possible by opening up the space sector to public-private participation.
Kerala Governor Arif Mohammad Khan has hailed the decision of the Kerala court order to dismiss Priya Varghese as an associate professor of the Kannur University. Governor Khan said also take a look at the dig at the Chief Minister, saying that in Kerala, money, job and position is only for the cadre. He further added that Varghese wasn't even qualified enough to be a professor.
What I am interested in is that law must be upheld. And I am so happy that law has been upheld. A person who was not qualified to be appointed. Honorable High Court has come out in clear terms that she was not even qualified to be summoned for interview. So law has been upheld. That is what makes one happy.
25 students fell ill after an alleged chemical gas leak in a lab in Hyderabad's Kasturba Government College. Affected students were rushed to a hospital. Forensic teams also reached the spot to ascertain which gas got leaked. Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the first greenfield airport in Arunachal Pradesh, Dhoni Apollo Airport, Holangi, Itanagar tomorrow. The foundation stone for this airport was laid by the Prime Minister himself in February 2019. Work on the airport has been completed within a short span of time despite the challenges due to the pandemic. Star table tennis player Manika Batra qualified for the semi-finals of the ongoing Asian Cup table tennis tournament. Now she's become the first woman from the country to make it to the semi-finals of the Asian Cup. She defeated China's counterpart in the quarter-finals with 4-3 set. Batra will be facing the winner of the match between Korea and Japan. Muslim community has backed a decision by the Qatar government to ban the sale of beer in stadiums just days before the World Cup starts in the Islamic country. As people gathered for the traditional Friday prayers in a mosque in central Doha, several commented on those visiting the host nation should respect the views and culture of those living there. In Islamabad, the High Court Chief Justice has said that as per intelligence reports, there were fears of another attack on the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. He passed the remarks while hearing a petition filed by traders regarding road closures due to the party's protest. Remember, Imran Khan was injured during a rally that he was taking out. This was a long march in Wazirabad on the 3rd of November. Elizabeth Debicki may have won rave reviews for a portrayal of the late Princess Diana in the new season of the royal drama The Crown, but the Australian actress says the role felt insurmountable when she first took it on. When asked, she said that she tried her best with embodying the late Princess Diana in this latest season, season 5 of The Crown. Pankaj Tripathi will next be seen in Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee's biopic under the direction of Ravi Jadhav, produced by Bharushali Studios. The makers announced the film titled Main Rahun Ya Na Rahun Ye Desh Rehna Chahiye. The film will revolve around the political journey of Vajpayee. Speaking about playing Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Pankaj Tripathi expressed, "It's my honor to portray such a humane politician on screen." And in Seen Unseen today, human-animal encounters are often scary and life-threatening. But other occasions, it turns delightful and memorable. This is one such video where a deer visited a tea stall. We're leaving you with these visuals. Thanks a lot for watching.
It's 25 years of glory for Bharat as we're trying to re-envision ourselves, find our roots, know our roots, and perhaps become the Bharat that we should be, or where we should have been 75 years down the line, but can we be there by 2047? So we'll talk about all of this. This is as much as I'm going to speak today because I am in very, very august company, and I have to thank right at the outset, with the bottom of my heart, all our guests for making the effort to be here in studio for this very special effort. First up, Ram Madhavji, person who needs no introduction, an author, and these days he's become a voracious author, writer. His latest book is in my hand, and we'll talk about that also, Partition Freedom. He makes a few points there. Jnani, student of Vedanta, if I may say, and of course somebody who's phenomenal in putting concepts right, philosophy, and of course what our civilization and our roots teach us. Tushin Sridharji.
Namaskar.
He's also the producer of the movie Shakuntalam in Sanskritam, which he shot through COVID. You must watch it. Phenomenal. He put mainstreaming Sanskritam, which is phenomenal. Pandit Satish Sharma ji is a regular with us. I always connected with you in the UK. Now you are here with me in the studio. Welcome to Bharat, like I said when you joined us, and you've been doing the rounds, you've been speaking at a lot of places. Thank you very much for making the time.
It's been a pleasure coming home.
Thank you. Yeah, you are home, but you're also setting certain narratives right there, especially with what they tried to do with Rashmi Samant in Cambridge. He himself is a Cambridge alumni, and you've tried to sort those out. You've tried to raise the voice. And of course, with Leicester, we'll talk about the NCRI report also. And Neeraj Jatri, Aapki Brainwashed Republic was one of the first books which, when I read and I said, oh my God. So I still remember that. A teacher himself and somebody who's very articulate. His YouTube videos set matters right, present the right perspective, facts as they should be. Thank you very much, Neeraj.
Thanks, Anand, for calling me.
Let's start with multiple issues. First up, Ram Madhavji, the hot burning issue as we are speaking is those who come out and say Savarkar was a servant of the British Empire.